Good morning, good day, good evening, good afternoon, good evening, good night, and welcome back to Achampnator Reads. This time, chapter 35 of The Last Elf. Let's go. The world was flooded with light. A cool wind had come to freshen him up. His headache was gone. Erbrow could fly again. He could finally get going. A good vertical flight with his back to the archers. No point in waiting. Sooner or later the entire wrecked group of them would be slaughtered. Better sooner rather than later. It's irritating to wait. Deferred executions are an act of cruelty. He who was a dragon would reach the library, where being a dragon he would live for a few centuries, flying over the sea and gobbling down dolphins and gulls. When the moment came to brood, he who was a dragon would withdraw into his splendid library, where golden beans, pink grapefruit, and an inexhaustible supply of storybooks would cheer him up until the birth of his descendant, who, being a dragon as well, would gobble down dolphins and gulls for centuries, and so on. Because he was a dragon, and they were just a crowd of stinking wretches. But to fly away with his back toward the archers, he would have to fly over Yorsh, Robbie, and the others, and look at them for one last time, as he abandoned them. Nonetheless, loneliness had always been a dragon's fate, and betrayal had always been a bearable necessity for his race. He who is a dragon owes fidelity to no one. Erbrow remembered that no one would look after his baby. No one would teach it to fly. His child would be desperate and alone. Perhaps it would die in a fire that it had started itself with a sneeze or a whimper, or because it had got itself caught up in its own tail. He recalled Yorsh teaching him to fly. He couldn't do it. He could never go, leaving them on their own to face the cavalry in his head. Across his various memories, the disapproval of his ancestors echoed, because he, a dragon, dared to think of risking his life for such ordinary creatures, a crowd of stinking wretches. He was a dragon, the last dragon, the lord of creation, and the dragon fights for nothing but himself, because can be nothing in existence with a value equal to his. He had to go. He had to abandon them and save himself. If he went now, he would go on living a very long life in total solitude. A little dragon would be born, and it, too, would live in solitude, allowing that it somehow managed to survive its own desolate, empty childhood, even bleaker than being a phoenix. He considered that there were no more dragons because loneliness had killed them off. He realized that you can't live century after century nurturing your own magnificence and your own loneliness. He reflected that what is important is not things, but the meaning we give to things. Sooner or later, death comes for everyone. More important than putting off death is giving it a meaning. In the darkness, beneath the moon, Yorsh's sword and Robbie's crown glittered with a silvery light. Erbrow knew then that his legend would be passed down. For centuries and centuries, the bards would sing of the last dragon, the one who had brought a great elfish warrior and a little wrecked queen toward the destiny. As founders of a place where people could be free, the great dragon rose up into the sky, and his flight brought salvation, a great fall of mud that closed off the gorge with a vast, impassable wall, but in doing so, he bared, he barred his belly, his vulnerable part, where the arrows didn't bounce off like peas, but stuck deep in his flesh, while great floods of vivid blood stained the green of his scales. The dragon flew with his great wings spread in the moonlight. Then there were too many arrows, and there was no blood left. Erbrow, the last dragon, fell to the ground, and spent his last moments there in the muddy grass. Right until the end, he dreamed of not dying, of being able to live a little longer, even with his chest pierced with arrows and the mud around him drenched with his blood. Then his mind was filled with a dream, the first dream he had ever dreamed in his life. He saw himself as a baby, a recently born puppy, with his head resting in the lap of his elfish brother, in an endless meadow of daisies. He opened his eyes for the last time. A miracle! He was surrounded by thousands of tiny flowers, bright in the moonlight, beneath the feet of the soldiers who were cautiously approaching. Erbrow looked at the petals and felt happiness filling him. Then he closed his eyes again, this time forever. That was chapter 35 of The Last Elf. Next time we read chapter 36. But till then, I say, see ya, your Achampnator.